As you're likely aware, Total Warhammer 3 came out recently. I was hoping to have a review of the game out at launch, but a lack of review code shot a hole into that. So instead, we have this, which in my mind is still a video that needs to be made, though I'm sure it's not the first time it has been, and I think now is the perfect time for me to do it. I've held these thoughts for a while, but upon playing Warhammer 3, they really have come to a head. So this is why Total Warhammer's DLC system is not only broken, but also a complete disappointment. Total War has been pulling this Blood DLC shakedown racket for a while, and to me it feels like a lot of people just accept it now as the way it's done and don't question it. For those unaware, Creative Assembly and Sega, and I don't know if either one of them pushes for it more than the other, so I'm going to assume that it's both, like to charge $5 to enable blood and gore effects in Total War games. They started with Shogun 2 and it's been in every single entry since then. And the age-old reasoning for this is that they're trying to get around age ratings. Get the core game rated without blood to hit a wider audience, then release the gore in a DLC which skirts that legality. I've never really bought that fully, since if that was solely the case, the DLC could just be free, or they could make it cost 1 cent or something. But now with Warhammer 3, it's a certainty that it's just a money-grubbing tactic to squeeze more cash out of a dedicated player base who already paid full price for your game. Playing Warhammer 3 on launch without blood and gore effects feels so boneless, man. Battles lack impact and heavy hitters just feel like they're swatting flies around and hitting actual enemies. Charging for a core part of the visuals is just... man, it really does my head in, and CA and Sega's attitude towards it fills me with contempt. Like, Warhammer 3 features the Blood God. There are blood fountains, blood lakes, characters reference spilling blood within 60 seconds of starting the campaign. The Plague Father has maggots coming out of his mouth and has units that literally piss and shit on his enemies. Slanesh's followers talk about insatiable desires, ultimate climax, and how they want to peg someone in a Wendy's parking lot, but somehow it's the blood effects that are too much. Yeah, okay guys. And not only do they charge you for it, but it's always released weeks after the game's launch, so you've got people on their knees begging to pay CA and Sega $5 by the time it's released. That is unless you paid for it previously, in which case it'll probably be free. At least it was for Warhammer 2 if you bought Warhammer 1, so that's something I guess. Okay, that's enough on blood, my brain is swelling with too much of it ranting about this. So let's get on to the next and, admittedly, more important point. Talking about the Blood DLC may get me unreasonably riled up, but discussing the core DLC packs are what I'm really wanting to get into here. And they are what I think is the biggest detractor the Total Warhammer series has. The main reason why new players would bounce off the trilogy, and the clearest proof that CA and Sega, like every other big gaming corporation, are governed, dictated, and ultimately ruled by fucking greedy bastards. Let me ask you a question. Have you ever wanted to buy Call of Duty Black Ops on Steam recently, to relive the glory days and play zombies with your mates? Or maybe one friend doesn't have it, so you thought you'd be the good guy and buy it for him. Well, if you haven't, you might be shocked to hear that despite being released 12 years ago, it still costs 100 New Zealand dollars. And the Zombies map pack costs another quarter on top of that. You may also then be shocked to hear that Total Warhammer shows the same greediness on its early releases. Warhammer 1, released 2016, $100. Warhammer 2, released 2017, $100. Warhammer 3, released 3 days ago, $100. How does this make sense? How is a game that released 6 years ago still cost the same as the newest in the series that literally just came out? And it's the same for each of those games' DLC packs too, with both the Lord and Faction packs retaining their launch prices, making for a total cost at full price of around 480 New Zealand dollars for both games and their DLC, and that's not counting Warhammer 3. Even if we say that you managed to get it at, say, 50% off, that's still 240 New Zealand dollars for content ranging from 1 to 6 years old. However, the main issue isn't actually the price, though that is a big one. It's the number of hoops you need to go through and consider when just wanting to play one of these, thanks to the inbuilt complexity and greediness of Total Warhammer's design. You see, Warhammer 2 included all new factions to Warhammer 1, and both have DLC packs that add unique lords and factions. So soon after Warhammer 2 came out, CA did a pretty cool thing and released the Mortal Empires map, a massive campaign for Warhammer 2 where all your Warhammer 1 content is accessible alongside what you have in the sequel. And it was free, provided that you owned both games. But that's the thing, you had to own both games. Even if you wanted to play with a friend and they owned both, you couldn't unless you had the same. And obviously, that extends to DLC too. You needed to own the base game. Let's play out a hypothetical scenario. You've bought Warhammer 2 because all your mates are playing it. But you don't want to play as the core Warhammer 2 races, you want to play as the Wood Elves, a DLC faction for Warhammer 1. So not only do you need to buy Warhammer 2, you also need to drop another $130 on Warhammer 1 and the DLC to do that, which, for content that is already in Warhammer 2, is dumb. Greedy and dumb. A couple of years ago, when I reviewed Warhammer 2, very positively mind you, in spite of the DLC issues, I talked about these problems and provided some possible solutions to both ease new players' journeys into Total Warhammer and its myriad of DLC, and simplify the design to garner goodwill from existing players. Now, my ego is not big enough to think that words from a little channel like mine would make any difference whatsoever, but I was hoping that with the release of Warhammer 3, CA and Sega would clean up the mess we currently have to form a clean entry point for new players. Like I said, the first game came out 6 years ago. There's certainly people looking at Warhammer 3 now who haven't played the previous games. But unfortunately, at least so far, as of February 2022, there's been no word. They'll add the big map in the next wee while, bringing all the content from the past 6 years together, but there's no reason to think they won't just continue what they've done in the past. Will they force players to own all 3 games just to play their big map? It seems egregious, but I really wouldn't be surprised. So, here's how they can fix it, lest Warhammer 3 become the most confusing, anti-consumer, and expensive game in Total War history. First, make the big map free for everyone who owns Warhammer 3. That's an easy one. It keeps players together and unfragmented, and considering the new 8-player multiplayer limit, I'd say this is a borderline necessity and the most likely. And further suggestions are going to assume that this has been put in place. Next, let any DLC be purchased without needing to own their respective base game. If someone wants to play the Tomb Kings in Warhammer 3, and that's all, then let them buy their DLC without owning Warhammer 2. Seriously, I cannot stress the importance of this enough. Next, make it cheaper. God, make it cheaper. I know it goes on sale sometimes, you can save your comments, but if the normal price is probably double what it should be, and it goes on sale for half price, is it really on sale? A lot of this is 3, 4, 5, 6 years old. Lower the base price, I'm begging you. And if you really can't do that, at least implement a scheme where people can save some money the more they buy. There is a lot to get here, so maybe if you own the base game, the DLCs can be half off. Or for each DLC you own, you could get an extra 5% off, up to 25% or something. Because if nothing happens, we're going to end up in this hellscape where we've got 3 $100 games and hundreds of dollars worth of DLC to buy to get fully up to par, with the promise of a future sale the only thing keeping your wallet from melting through your shorts. You know it, I know it, everyone knows it. Be honest, Total Warhammer has a big DLC problem. It's a huge turn-off for new players, and a continual thrashing to all but the most hardcore of existing ones. I had a mate in Discord saying that he just pirates all the Warhammer DLC because it's too intimidating and too expensive. And you know me, I'm not one for pirating, and while I wouldn't recommend doing so, I could see where he was coming from. It really is up to Creative Assembly and Sega whether they want to either fix these issues or continue in their money-grubbing ways and remain compared to the likes of Activision Blizzard with prices for old Call of Duty titles and Paradox with their infinite lists of optional DLCs. Time will tell. Time will tell. Thanks for watching. I will be reviewing Warhammer 3 at some stage, but it won't be for a while. This video will have to do for now, and it will probably be in a couple of years' time once they've built out the DLC and finished their grand plan of combining the content of all 3 games together. Hopefully at that point I can sing the praises of a cleaned up DLC system and pro-consumer practices. But for now, this is the hill I'm going to die on, so thanks for watching, and please go and vote on the best RTS campaign of all time if it's before the end of March 2022, there'll be a link in the description, and I will see you all next time. And thanks for those who support me via YouTube memberships and Patreon. If you like what I do here, consider joining T-Edits, Crispy Robo Chicken, Overlord Jebus, Alan, David DeBolye, Crizzy218, Dekayo, and Standby for Systems Nominal, who supports me at the Paladin tier. Thank you very much. So thank you again, and I'll see you later.